The following is entitled The Psychology of, I guess, alt-left or faux progressive or fictional left hostility, hatred, animus, whatever, rudeness, contretemps, and the like. And I have detailed this, of course, always in my daily recitation, my diagramming of the world, so that you won't have to do it yourself. And I start with this particular premise, and I'm sure you know it as well. Do you have somebody that in your life, most probably, and we're dealing with politics and whatever we call politics versus religion and the like, but do you know somebody who is typically and we're going to use this term just for shorthand, a lefty, somebody on the left that you cannot speak with, who gets very upset, who all of a sudden shows an anger when it comes to discussing anything, not just a disagreement, but an anger that is precipitated by vile and extremely rude and dare I say coprolalic and obscene language. I have a friend of mine who was a very soft-spoken young woman. She's very, very learned, very, very, I don't want to say sweet, that's not, but you would call her sweet. She's very nice. And I read, interestingly enough, Facebook, her Facebook comments, which show another version of this. And all of a sudden, she was referring to somebody. I think it was Dick Cheney or something, and she referred to. And please bear with me. I know this is crude, but I'll give you an idea. This person said, "Hey, he's a fucktard, and he's a fucking." I said, "My God, I've never heard you utter the slightest, even one time when she spilled coffee or nothing, even just in life, no reaction. Normally people who are prone towards the obscene would, when I spilled coffee on my notes just moments before, you should have heard the torrent of vile and disgusting epithets that even made me sick to my stomach. But no politics, and again, it's not really politics, but this anti-Trump or this current version of hysteria seems to inspire something which I want to deal with accordingly. And I'm trying my best, and I've been reading a lot about this and trying to see if I can explain it to somebody perhaps who might be from another planet or universe. First, these people are not able to deconstruct. And to deconstruct means to find out the component parts of something. Not only the component parts of what they believe, but the component parts of that of their alleged enemy. Have you ever gone on YouTube and somebody would say, we've broken down and we figured out the special sauce of a Big Mac or whatever, and they deconstruct. They find the component parts, and they'll say, "What is that? Is that? You think that's a Russian dressing? Is there pimento in here?" Well, that's what we need to do when it comes to understanding ideology. And what I'm doing right now shows you that I'm trying to understand not so much their political belief, but the source of their hostility. I'm trying to understand it. And they aren't able to do that. They don't care. They don't care. It's also identitarian and identity focused and very interesting. And I will say both sides are guilty of this. Let me explain. When you have this Haspel, this new CIA director, she has been linked to black sites and torture. Now, the and again, I'm just going to use this term because I don't want to have to keep explaining this. The left, the angry left, will say, that's all for I say a goddamn Trump and a goddamn it, and he put a terrorist and he's a terror. You can't torture people as vile and inhumane. Goddamn. And the Trump folks, the right, will say, well, so what? You got to get tough and they're terrorists and you don't care anymore. You don't care what is goddamn. And I would go back to the left and say, excuse me, when I told you about what Obama did, bombing and killing via, drone and like kids and wedding parties in Yemen, and go, I don't care about goddamn it. There's no consistency. There's no absolute. Are you for torture or against it? Does it matter who is the? It's all relativistic, moral relativistic. So it goes to show you the inability to deconstruct the argument and the basis and bases for their mindless contempt. Okay. Next, in a similar vein, there's no retrofitting. There's no, or I should say, there's no reverse engineering. There's no sense of history. There's no sense of understanding it is the issue. If Trump said, and this is really what it's about. And by the way, I know people who feel the same way about Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, no matter what Hillary Clinton says, it doesn't even matter. They just, and oftentimes they're correct. Mind you, I'd be less than honest if I didn't say that. But I want to at least say, well, what does she have to say? And then I'll decide if I'm against it. Okay. Next, the left has no ideology. Let me explain that to you. It's very, very interesting. The left and the right. Let me give you an example. And I'm just going to give you this again, I apologize, just illustrations of what I'm talking about. Let's take Fox News, in particular, Fox and Friends. Good morning. How are you? I love our troops. I'm Ainsley, and I love our troops. I love our God. I love our Jesus. Jesus is a conservative. I love our troops. I love our flag. I love our family. I love our church. I love our cross. I love our country. I love our. Okay. Then you have Steve Doocy. So he's doing his thing, but they may be frankly a little bumper sticker-esque when it comes to this kind of stuff, but they have ideologies. They have platforms. Lower taxes, if they could. Lower taxes, tough on crime, prayer in school, military war sometimes, when it is. Therefore, they tend to be more. Abortion is not a big deal, but pro capital punishment, pro taxes. They're into build a wall, immigration, anti-crime, pro death penalty. I mean, you like it or not, they've got bumper stickers. Their car would be filled with bumper stickers of ideas, plans, platforms, ideologies, whatever it is. Okay, fine. The left, the people that I'm talking about, these hostile alt-left regressive folks, no plan. Are you anti-war? Not really, because they were just traveling at the bit when Barry 44 was POTUS. Remember that? They loved it. Syria, boots on the ground. I don't care. Let me tell you something. Rachel Maddow is one of the biggest hawks there is, and she's also a tremendous, when it comes to anti-Putin, oh my God, a cold warrior of the first stripe. My God. Interesting. So there's no, and it's inconsistent. It's not even a belief. So are you pro-military? Let me get you're a lefty. Do you associate with the 60s? No. I'm just a pissed off, angry person, and I want you to shut up. We'll get to that in a moment. The focus of this is not free speech. You know, Berkeley was the bastion, the epicenter of free speech at one particular time. Not anymore. The campuses, college campuses. Interesting. Again, I'm going to apologize again, using terms like left and right. The right seem to have maintained the positions in the campuses of more engineering, science, more hard-fitting, history, just the regular engineering, medicine, law, chemical engineering, electronics, business administration, and the usual. I don't want to say hard sciences, but the usual suspects when it comes to core curricula. The left have basically taken what have been called the phony fields, the fake fields of academia, gender studies, ethnic studies, stuff that's frankly nonsense. I mean, it's interesting, but a study? This is your major? Not going to argue that. Some would say, well, what's philosophy? I'm thinking, you're trying to compare philosophy with gender studies, women's studies, African American studies, just not history, not studies, but that in particular? Okay, fine. Let's see what that does to you. In the 60s, going back to the halcyon days of this, when these people performed, I think, on the intellectual stage far better and with a much greater repertoire than they have today, they had a tendency to fight the administration, fight their teachers, fight their professors, fight the police, fight the government, fight. It was laudable. Fighting the man, the system that sent their friends and neighbors and fellow students to die in wars, in places that no one could understand, and that sort of thing. Okay. They also tended to have coherent positions. They didn't fight about the use of a pronoun, about zer or some other morpheme that nobody can pronounce to denote a transitional, crypto-gendered, none of the above, alternative whatever. They didn't walk around when they marched. It wasn't walking around in a pussy hat and engorged pudenda in foam, rubber, or latex or whatever. It was legitimate. Think of Joan Baez. I was thinking about Joan Baez, her protest. Joan Baez, Betty Friedan, all these other people. They weren't vague. You didn't go to a rally and say, "What the hell does Joan Baez want? She wants me to change a word. She wants me to who? She wants me to and say what you want as far as those individuals who are walking out of schools and those who have evinced an anti-gun position. I get it. I mean, I applaud him at least. I may not agree necessarily with how what their plan is ultimately, but I do agree with the very fact that they're actually speaking to something which is a coherent, palpable, tenable, actual, reducible to writing plan. They're against guns or whatever. So that's something as which is now, their motivation may be a different story, but either way, we're seeing right now social justice warriors, virtue signaling, faux radicalized, misanthropic trolls, kind of a collective troll behavior. People who enjoy being not only offended and affronted, but who enjoy shutting down people, shutting down academicians, shutting down college campuses, shutting down professors, saying, you better, like that Yale, very respected Yale academic who was surrounded by by some rather loud and militant, dare I say, students who was screaming, calling for his head, and I played it back. I'm not really sure exactly. Oh, it was about Halloween costumes or something. It seems like the focus seems to be not necessarily just any kind of identifiable, we don't like your position on, let's say, Yale endowment in being inextricably connected with slavery, or it used to be apartheid, or something that you can point to. Israeli investment and divestment and those issues. Right or wrong, at least you can say, okay, I've got it. What we're seeing more and more right now is kind of an amorphous anger, a collective anger, a scattered ire, a non-specific, untargeted, explicable, just a range of mostly anger, and the focus and the basis and the goal of this particular exercise is for me to pound my chest and to exercise my inconsolable rage, unquenchable, unstoppable rage at you, whom I've identified as being responsible for some condition which precipitates or inspires my rage. I guess. I'm not even sure. Okay. We're not seeing, going back to academia, we're not seeing the studies of a range of philosophies, people who are studying. I see it all the time. I can almost promise you that anybody who uses a term communist or socialist has no idea what they're even talking about. Versus Marxist, to really make it complicated. They have no idea. No earthly idea of what that even means. What it even connotes. They have this idea that it is a pejorative. And this is not utilized by the left that I'm talking about. But the right does this too. This is not, and again, I'm sorry, left and right, but you know what I mean. Both people co-opt these phrases incorrectly and the like. Next, we're looking at a form of tribalism. We're seeing something which is classic mob hysteria, and this is, if you go back to, and I'm not one of these people who loves to cite, people just love, I know one intellectual who spends the entire thrust of his speech on citing. As Spinoza once quipped, this is not necessarily a Krumholtzian view versus no, stop it. But Gustave Le Bon, remember from Duran Duran, I think it was, no, that was Simon Le Bon. Gustave did the notion of mob psychology, mob and riot and tribalism, crowd, collective crowd hysteria. But it's this swarming murmuration of this. Wow, you've seen starlings, murmurations, and these swells of like schools of fish and these wild mobs. Whether it's Black Lives Matter, maybe a more benign version of this was Occupy Wall Street, which is a wonderful idea, but completely incomprehensibly vague in terms of focus. No idea what they were talking. No idea what they wanted. That's another thing too. The resurrection or the elevation, if you will, of the vague and disjointed and amorphous focus, the message, a discontinued, disjointed message of something where the message is not anything that I'm saying. It's the platform. It's my ability to appreciate this moment where I can scream and yell and rage. Remember the snowflakes after Hillary Clinton had lost a rigged election, which is fantastic, and Trump as a president. There they were screaming, howling, yipping, each one trying to outmourn, outcry, out lugubrious and howl and wail and shriek and yelp and scream and pound. And it was about me. It was this tribalism. We're all a part of it, but yet within the tribe, it's one person trying to rise at the top that says, my particular focus, because of the solipsistic, selfie world of self-gratification and this narcissistic exhibitionism about me. I'm upset. It's this group. Now, I want to give you an example of something, and I want to make two analogies: the vocal fry of Kim Kardashian and the neck tattoo. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. There are people today who are so devoid, so empty, so absent, so vacant, so without any kind of redeeming self-identification ideology that they will take anything that is a fad, and I mean anything. Going back to Laban in the tribalism and the group thing, all of a sudden overnight, for reasons that I cannot figure, we've gone through different ways of speaking, harkening back to Moon Zappa, who didn't create but spoke to Valley Girl. And people really started to speak like that. Even though what she was doing was pointing out something that already had occurred. And believe me, I know people who talk like that predated and antedated that song. By the way, Frank Zappa's, I think, only top 10 song ever. But people started talking like that. Well, if you listen to the vocal fry, the Kim Kardashian, the way they talk, and the upticks and all of that. Now, people sound like that today. Why? Because it's a fad. The same thing with a neck tattoo. Neck tattoo, studs, piercings, sleeve tats, go down the list. This inexhaustible series of things that people will do to be apart. And we've always had fads. We've always had, uniforms, and cultural and otherwise. But now in particular, what we're seeing right now is the angry, militant, the one who wants to just shut you up and down, shut you down, to destroy your ability to speak against that which they've identified as being the norm. Oh, no. That's it. Now, the final part of this. The left, the true left, won. When they argued for women's rights, there were tremendous rights. Not by any way, by any stretch of the imagination accomplished, but women have done tremendously well since the 19th Amendment. Civil rights, African Americans and people of color have done tremendously better. There is no war. There is no draft. There is no... Now, what are they fighting for? What is their rage? What is it that focuses and perpetuates and motivates their rage? What is this thing? How do you explain this? I don't know. They've replaced it with just a diffuse and non-specific kind of a generalized anger. The right still feels that they haven't gotten what they want. That's why the right had talk radio. That's why the angry white man, as they were called, the people who felt disenfranchised, that they were losing their government, their religion, their representative voice. They thought that their family, their God, their conservative ideology, their Ronald Reagan-esque world, or whatever it is, they had points. They were angry. They were focused, and that's why talk radio in the 80s and 90s in particular just flourished, because it became the platform of the right, whereas the left didn't have that because there was no anger there. Today, the anger is there, not based upon issues, not based upon that which was lost, not based upon an unrealized political commitment or agenda. No, just anger for the sense of anger. They've cut out the middleman. They realize, we like being angry. We don't really care if what we're saying is baseless, and there's no reason for being angry. It's being angry. It's the yelling and the screaming that we want to talk about, irrespective of even the fact that what we're suggesting is completely vague, nebulous, and without any kind of object or any kind of plan in mind. I hope that clears that up. I know you have run into these people, and it is a great source of sometimes frustration, but moreover, fascination. As are you, by the way. Now, if you could and you would, please brighten my northern sky and like the video. Please put your thoughts, comments, observations, witticisms, and analyses and commentaries below. We so love to read those, especially at night. Also, make sure you click that little bell so you can subscribe to the channel and also be notified of live streams and new videos. And whatever you do, I beg and beseech and implore you and importune you to comment as you see fit.